Hello and welcome to the Banker's You from Sibos 2019 video series looking at all the hot topics this year in London. I'm Joy Macknight, Managing Editor at The Banker, and I'm joined by Mel Tsiaprazis, Group Chief Operating Officer at Crown Agents Bank, a wholesale institution operating in Africa and other frontier markets. Mel, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So what are the big challenges really in terms of foreign exchange, in terms of making payments and cross-border payments in and around frontier markets?
So there are obviously several of them. Firstly, there's low liquidity of local currencies, especially in times of crisis in these markets. And these tend to be currencies that don't get traded commonly, so actually getting physical access to them can be quite hard to come by. Secondly, logistics. Frontier markets tend to have low levels of infrastructure, so simple things such as moving cash from one location to another can be quite intermittent and very difficult. Lastly, I would say, and not to be underestimated, is the lack of local market knowledge and lack of local relationships. Navigating financial services in frontier markets can be challenging without that.
So how is technology really starting to overcome these challenges?
So at Crown Agents Bank, we see mobile penetration really making a monumental difference in the frontier markets, in their ability to send money to, from, and between them. We're seeing the pace of funds transfer quicken. As a result, the cost comes down. But the other really exciting part is that financial inclusion is growing as a result of this, because we're able to access a larger part of the population which traditional local banking can't access. So we see cash being taken out of the ecosystem as a result. So really addressing the two challenges we've just discussed around access to the local currency as well as the facilitation and movement of funds.
Okay. And there's a lot of talk about the de-risking that's been going on in the correspondent banking industry. You know, what is the state of play there?
So correspondent relationships have been on the decline for some time, especially in the emerging and frontier markets, much to the concern of the international community. We see the impact even on remittance service providers and their ability to transfer funds into households that really need them because of the reduction of the number of key players. But therein lies great opportunities for these players when they have that local market expertise and the specialism, being able to then leverage technology. Bringing those two together, we can then ensure those funds reach an even broader number of people.
So how does Crown Agents Bank actually work with organizations to get money into areas like war-torn areas and also areas that are hit by big disasters, let's say Ebola, medical emergencies?
So our heritage has us in a number of these markets for almost 200 years. During that time, we've been able to build a really extensive financial network, both broad and very deep, which governments and development organizations can then leverage during times of these crises. Most recent example in Africa is during the cyclone Idai. We saw Mozambique hit really hard with that cyclone, and we facilitated the movement of funds for a UN entity the day after the cyclone at, one could argue, almost unprofitable rates. And we made that decision very quickly because we prioritized the local economy and the local population above market trends. We've been operating in these markets for a very long time and recognize that the lack of funds during times of crisis can trigger economic recessions and even more devastating actions. So we do take that responsibility very seriously.
My last question is really around how Crown Agents Bank is working with fintechs to really modernize itself.
So excitingly, we've just purchased a fintech called Segovia. They're a New York fintech. They built a payment gateway and have linked up to a number of mobile operators across Africa. We've managed to actually combine that with Crown Agents Bank's unique network across the emerging and frontier markets to be able to provide a very special service for governments, for development organizations, banks, and even non-bank financial institutions. Of course, we're continuing to see what's going on in the market. Sibos is a really great place to be, to see what advancements are happening in artificial intelligence, advancements in robotic process automation, how we can then leverage that to continue to drive for more seamless, frictionless FX to payment services for our clients at lower cost and at a faster pace.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your insights, Mel.
I really appreciate you having me here.